we go. The last football game of the year, and it's shaping up to be an instant classic. It's Super Bowl 59, the last game of the year, the biggest game of the year, taking place down in New Orleans between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. A rematch of Super Bowl 57, a game that started the Chiefs' run to a possible three-peat if they can win on Sunday, a game where the Eagles had a heartbreaking defeat to Kansas City. So will the Chiefs become the first ever team to win 3 straight Super Bowls? Or will the Eagles redeem themselves from that loss just 2 years ago? We're here to break all that down, tell you the answer, and share our official Super Bowl 59 prediction today, right here on the Gridiron Expert. So welcome back, guys. We're so glad you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. You know, we said this is the last football game of the year, so Super Bowl Sunday will end, and we'll have the long, strenuous wait through the offseason until we get to watch more live football. But while that might be the case for what you see on TV, it will not be the case what you see here on our channel. We are talking college football and a little bit of NFL with you year-round. So the season may officially end on Sunday. It's just now getting started for us here at our channel. We're already looking ahead to 2025. So nonstop football content here at The Gridiron Expert. All the more reason to check out our website, thegridironexpert.com. All the more reason to subscribe to our channel, hit that notification button, and stick around, become a member of our GE Nation. So let's jump into this. I mean, God, what a great matchup. And if it's anything like we saw back in Super Bowl 57, this is going to be an instant classic. The Chiefs won that game 2 years ago, 38-35, rallying from a 10-point deficit. Remember, Patrick Mahomes has come back from double-digit points, double-digit deficits in all 3 of the Super Bowl victories. None bigger maybe than that Eagles game, which again, they won by 3. We'll touch more on that here in a little bit, kind of referencing what to expect this year versus what we saw 2 years ago. Both teams, of course, looking drastically different. But we'll take a look at the offenses first, and we'll start with the Chiefs. Here's the interesting thing coming into Super Bowl 59, right? The Chiefs are a dang good football team. They've got the best quarterback in the league right now with Patrick Mahomes. They have arguably the best coach in the league right now with Andy Reid, who, again, is facing off against his former team in the Eagles. Saw it once, now seeing it twice. But this Chiefs offense hasn't been what we've been used to seeing. They haven't been that electric. They haven't been that explosive like we've seen in years past, like we've seen even 2 years ago. Mahomes has thrown for just 28 touchdowns and 11 interceptions on the year. He's been sacked 41 times. His top 2 pass catches are obviously Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy. But outside of that, really don't have a whole lot of guys that I would consider game changers coming in to Super Bowl 59. They've been outgained in both of their playoff games to the Texans and the Bills, but despite the offensive struggles, despite not being nearly as explosive or dynamic, they're finding ways to win. They are finding ways to get the job done. And one of the biggest reasons for that is the fact that they take great care of the football. So they're not as explosive, they're not putting up tons and tons of points, but they're not gifting their opponents anything either. The Chiefs have turned the ball over just 1 time in their last 9 games. That's massive. Absolutely massive. They're now facing the number 1 defense in the league in the Philadelphia Eagles, but if Patrick Mahomes can take care of the football, if they don't make any dumb mistakes, they're going to be in great shape for this game. Holding on to the ball and not giving Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley any extra opportunity to score is going to be the big storyline I'm watching for here. The other thing that you got to watch out for the Chiefs offensively is finding a way to maybe get a couple explosive plays in there. Can they get anything going for an offense that it hasn't been stagnant by any means, but hasn't been as electric as we mentioned? They're going to need to rely a lot on some yards after the catch, right? So we're going to see a lot of big catch and runs from Kansas City. We're going to see Patrick Mahomes escape the pocket and take off for 25 yards, and then they get a 15-yard penalty tacked on top of that. We don't know what we're going to see, but if I'm the Chiefs, that's what I'm doing. I'm Patrick Mahomes, knowing my offensive line is not that great, knowing that the Eagles are going to send a lot of pressure at me, dink and dunk it across the field and hope that my pass catcher, especially a guy like Xavier Worthy who has quite a bit of speed, can pick up a lot of yards after the catch and let those be our explosive plays. So that's definitely a storyline to watch out for going into Sunday. Keep in mind, back in Super Bowl 57, the Chiefs didn't play that great offensively. They got outgained significantly, 417 yards to 340. Mahomes only had 182 passing yards on the day compared to 302 from Jalen Hurts. The Eagles dominated the time of possession, holding the ball for over 35 minutes. The key was the turnover battle. The Chiefs didn't turn it over. The Eagles did once, and that was a fumble recovery for a touchdown by Nick Bolton. Factor that on top of the big-time punt return that we saw, that led to the Chiefs' comeback. That led to a Chiefs Super Bowl victory. So even though the Chiefs were arguably significantly outplayed 2 years ago on Super Bowl 57, they found a way to win. Mahomes delivered in the clutch, but the defense and the special teams did their job as well. Eagles, first things first, don't turn the ball over, right? Like, don't do what Jalen Hurts did 2 years ago and allow for a costly turnover for a touchdown that ended up being one of the biggest difference makers in a 3-point game. But more than anything for Philadelphia in this game, as we know, it is the Saquon Barkley show. His first year in Philadelphia, and he absolutely dominated. And I think that attributes to him obviously playing for a better team compared to the New York Giants, but also him finally staying healthy for an entire season. It shows what he can do when he isn't banged up. Over 2,000 rushing yards in the regular season, and then in the playoffs, the 3 playoff games, has rushed for over 440 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's absolutely unreal. He has rushed for at least 118 yards in the last 5 games. He has been held to under 100 rushing yards just 5 times this year. Can he keep this up? Will he get shut down? No team has really been able to slow him down much this year. The Chiefs defense, pretty stingy as we know. That's going to be the task they've got to be dealing with, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But if he does, let's say he does. Let's say Saquon doesn't have any big breakout runs. Let's say the Chiefs do a great job of bottling him up. It then turns to Jalen Hurts. Then all the pressure goes on to him. And all the credit in the world to Jalen Hurts 2 years ago. He did everything he could to give the Eagles a chance to win that Super Bowl. With the exception of that bad fumble that the Chiefs picked up in return, he was phenomenal. Over 300 passing yards, had 3 rushing touchdowns in that game, but he has not had a 250-yard passing day since December 15th against the Steelers. So it's been almost 2 months since he's had a 250-yard passing day. He's only had 4 games this year where he's thrown for 250 yards or more. And I know a lot of that attributes to the fact that the ground game's been so dominant. The Eagles haven't had to throw the ball as much, haven't wanted to throw the ball as much when you've got Saquon Barkley in your backfield. But listen, this is not an Eagles team that can go in and expect to run the ball 40, 50 times and win the game. Jalen Hurts is going to have to deliver. He's going to have to play. I'm not saying he's going to go throw for 300 yards like he did 2 years ago, but he's going to have to show up. He's going to have to make good decisions. And his dual threat capability is going to be something to watch out for as well. Keeping the Chiefs defense on their toes, whether or not he's going to give it to Saquon, whether he's going to pull it and run, that's going to be something that I'm curious to see what the Eagles do, what Nick Sirianni and this Eagles offense decide to do, and how much they utilize Jalen Hurts' rushing ability because of how much the Chiefs might end up selling out on stopping Saquon. We do know that in the playoffs, Jalen Hurts has thrown for over 500 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's rushed for over 120 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. His dual threat capability, more than anything, might be the key for the Eagles in this game, just like it was 2 years ago where he had 3 rushing touchdowns but still fell just short. Defensively for the Chiefs, Steve Spagnuolo's defense always shows up in the playoffs. I mean, every year. I mean, you got to think about it. The last couple of years, we've kind of counted the Chiefs out. I think 2 years ago against the Eagles, it was a toss-up. Last year, a lot of us, including myself, thought the 49ers were going to get the job done. The Chiefs found a way to get the win. This year, the Chiefs haven't looked all that great, but yet here they are back in the Super Bowl. So Spagnuolo's defense knows how to show up, and this team as a whole is one of the most experienced in the entire league when it comes to Super Bowl experience. I mean, 3 straight appearances. Spagnuolo's been there, Reed's been there, most of the defense has been there, Mahomes has been there. They've got that experience and that ability to close out the games. But here's the thing. We talk about shutting down Saquon Barkley. That's going to be the key for Kansas City's defense. They haven't done very well at stopping the run this year, especially in the last couple games they haven't. They've allowed at least 139 rushing yards in 5 of their last 6 games. That includes both of their playoff games, where they allowed 147 rushing yards to the Bills and 149 rushing yards to the Texans. Can they stop him? And again, if they do, can you stop Jalen Hurts? Just when you think you've stopped Saquon, just when you think you've stopped the run, that could be when Jalen Hurts pulls the ball and takes off for a 30, 40-yard sprint. So again, the Chiefs' ability not just to stop Saquon Barkley, but stopping the entire Eagles rushing game as a whole is what I'm watching out for the most. Hurts is a solid passer. He's an accurate passer. He takes relatively good care of the football. But and again, we saw what he did against this Chiefs defense 2 years ago, but that was also 2 years ago. I don't know if this is a game where that the Eagles can win if Jalen Hurts has to solely pass the ball. If the running game gets taken away and you force Jalen Hurts to stand in the pocket and deliver, he's got the receivers, he's got the talent, he's got the IQ, he's got the skill. I just don't think he's able to do it. I don't think he's able to do it if the running game gets shut down. So that's the storyline to watch out for defensively. For the Eagles, their key is forcing turnovers because they've been so dang good at it. They have forced 10 turnovers in 3 playoff games alone against the Packers, the Rams, and the Commanders. 10 turnovers in 3 games. That's really, really impressive. They've got 51 sacks on the year as well. As we mentioned, Patrick Mahomes has been sacked 41 times. So for the Eagles, pressure Patrick Mahomes. Don't allow him to escape the pocket and scramble. If it's 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, don't allow him to get a little scamper and then try to flop out of bounds. Don't let him do that. Get some pressure on him. Get him in a 2nd and 3rd very long situations. See if you can't get a strip sack. See if you can't force an interception. See if you can't reverse the script a little bit and win the turnover battle like you were unable to do in Super Bowl 57. Keep in mind, in Super Bowl 57, the Eagles defense, they didn't force a turnover, they didn't register a sack, and they had 1 tackle for a loss. That good defensive line did nothing. The Eagles defense did nothing. Held Mahomes to 182 passing yards and still found a way to lose. And again, they couldn't do anything in terms of pressure or in terms of mistakes. This year feels a little bit different. They're the top defense in the league, and they've been that way for a while. We've seen that throughout these playoffs. You've got to find a way to make sure you do it for one more game. Do not go cold. Do not go stagnant in the biggest game of the year, biggest game of your career. So you look at this a little bit deeper. That's the key for Philadelphia. And if you want to tie it into what they can do offensively, if they have their way up front on the line of scrimmage and they have their way running the ball, they can dominate the time of possession like they did 2 years ago. Again, held the ball for over 35 minutes. 35 minutes and 47 seconds to be exact. If you do that, and you're scoring touchdowns, not field goals, touchdowns on those drives, you are cutting into the amount of possessions that Kansas City has. Meaning that if you can just dominate the time of possession, have your way, play your style of ball against Kansas City. Don't go play their style. Play your style. Smash mouth football. You do that, and your defense can register just a handful of stops. I'm talking 2 or 3 stops in the game against Kansas City. You win. That is, of course, if you dominate the time of possession and actually convert when you do that. That's the key, right? That's going to be the big key for the Eagles. Do as much as you can to keep the Chiefs off the field. If your offense is doing that on long sustained drives, punching it in, and then your defense gets, getting 2 or 3 big stops, you win the game. You win the game. I know it sounds easier said than done, but it's true. So the recipe is there for both of these teams. Both these teams have very interesting X factors and intangibles. And again, this is, to me, going to be a different game than what we saw in Super Bowl 57. Both teams look different. Both teams have played different. You can't compare necessarily what we saw 2 years ago to now, but you definitely can do a little bit more than if these teams had faced off 5 or 6 years ago. They've changed. They are different, but they haven't changed that drastically. And that's something to kind of monitor. The Eagles should have won Super Bowl 57. There's no doubt about that. They simply outplayed the Chiefs and found a way to lose. And the holding call at the end, yes, very controversial, but they still blew a 10-point lead. In a game where they went 11 for 18 on 3rd downs, 2 for 2 on 4th downs, dominated the time of possession, dominated the yardage, dominated the passing game, they found a way to lose. And it really came down to, again, I think 3 big plays, and it was the fumble recovery for the touchdown, the punt return, and then the holding call. Those were the 3 major calls that changed the game for the Eagles. If 2 of those were self-inflicted wounds, right? I mean, all of them were, but the biggest ones were the fumble and the punt return. You don't do that. You win this game. You win Super Bowl 59. You get redemption. Most of America's thrilled that you win. You prevent the Chiefs from winning their 3rd straight Super Bowl. But ultimately, guys, I just don't think it's going to happen. I got to go with the Chiefs here. I got to go with the Chiefs. This is the team that's more experienced. They've got the better quarterback out there on the field. Even though statistically he hasn't been that great this year. It's been a down year for Patrick Mahomes. He's still a guy that's won back-to-back Super Bowls. He's still the best quarterback in the NFL right now. And as we've mentioned a couple of times before, when push comes to shove, if this game is close in the final minutes, this game does come down to the wire, it is going to be the Chiefs that get the most calls that go their way. It's going to be the Eagles that get a massive touchdown called back, a massive play called back on a phantom penalty. It's going to be the Chiefs that get a big holding call at the end of the game, pass interference call, a roughing the passer call, something that goes their way that gives this team either life, they're down early, gives them life, or gives them an opportunity to win the game in the end. We've seen that time and time and time again. Also keep in mind the Chiefs, 3 Super Bowl wins, 0 holding calls on their offensive line. That's just not right, not even possible. Bottom line is the Chiefs are a good football team. They're a well-coached football team. When you factor in that they're going to get more beneficial calls at the end of the day, it's hard for me to pick against them. I think it's a great game. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. I think it's, eerily similar to what we see in Super Bowl 57 and what's going to be a relatively high-scoring game and relatively close one-possession game. But ultimately, I'm going to be taking the Chiefs. Give me 31-27. We'll actually give you a score prediction this time. 31-27, Kansas City. The Chiefs become the first team in NFL history to win 3 straight Super Bowls as the Eagles once again suffer heartbreak for the second time in 3 years. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks, and home to tons of exclusive content to help you get through this offseason. We're going to be producing nonstop football content for you. Despite the Super Bowl ending, despite the season being over, we're talking college football year-round with you here on our channel. All the more reason to subscribe, hit the notification button, become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.